for our school district.
And Dr. Mecca, will you explain how they're even free that ends? When does that end, the free?
Yes, it's set to end December 31st, but it looks like there's a new waiver that's going to come out, but we still need to get those applications in. And so right now it's set to end this semester. But that free and reduced lunch count for us is how we get our federal funding. A lot of our federal funding pays for salaries, lots of resources. It pays for our intervention, our intercessions. It pays for our Saturday schools at the elementaries as we're trying to close the learning gap of some of our disadvantaged students. It's high school students that are have the free and reduced lunch status can have dual credit at NCTC, have that tuition waived. There's also scholarships that are available for students that have the free and reduced lunch. They have their AP and exam test fees waived. They have SAT waivers, ACT waivers. So there's a lot of benefits for students who are on free and reduced lunch status. And we know with the pandemic that there are a lot of families out there who need this type of help, even though they are currently receiving free meals at the campuses right now. And so we're just imploring our community to submit those free and reduced lunch applications, even though we are currently feeding all students for free. As we continue to scroll on down, we have our numbers for our limited English proficient students. And as you can see with our Brent and Oak Point is our highest number of limited English proficient students, with Hackberry right behind it. And that is why we have our dual language and bilingual programs at those campuses. As we go on down to the next graph, as you know, we have been, in the past, we were typically only a bilingual or ESL, English as a Second Language district. Many years ago, we moved to the dual language program and the one-way dual language program. And so as you can see at Hackberry, at Brent and Oak Point, those are the only two campuses left where we are still have students on a traditional bilingual program, because we are slowly replacing that with the dual language program. And so those are the students who are in 4th or 5th grade who began in a bilingual program, and we are aging them out of that. And so that is in another 2 years, you will see that we are strictly a dual language program, or English as a second language program. And when I say dual language, some of our campuses are one-way dual language and some are two-way dual language. The one-way dual language is only for Spanish-speaking students, and then they learn both Spanish and English at the same time. Our two-way dual language program is the program that most people think of, where we have the English speakers learning Spanish, and we have the Spanish speakers learning English in pairs. And so we have both of those programs running simultaneously. But most of our students continue to be served in an English as a second language program. And I believe that is the end of our dashboard. And so, as always, I enjoy showing you what our demographics look like for this current school year. The last thing I have in my curriculum update is in the Superintendent Board Goals 4.A. I was to report to you on the progress of our teachers in their summer learning and fall learning, where we brought in the remote learning instruction. And so we did have 100% of our students complete all of their coursework on Canvas, Google Classroom, or Seesaw, depending upon their grade band. We also had 100% of our teachers have completed the TCEA, Remote Learning Instructor Certification. And so that was assigned to any teacher that was a teacher of record for students. And so both of those initiatives to quickly build capacity in our teaching staff for remote learning have been successful, and we continue to enroll any new hires into those courses, both the TCEA and also our Canvas, Google, and Seesaw course. So we give them a month to get that coursework finished. Once we hired them into a classroom teaching position. And that's all I had for my report for the curriculum and learning team. So if you have any questions, I'd be willing to take them at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Mika. Just, I noticed that Presswick is about 300 less students than any of the other. And I know it's not on the agenda, so we can't have a whole lot of discussion around it. So the question really is, do we need to have a discussion about realigning to ease some of the other schools?
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that. When we had the middle school out there, we also had, I believe, 3 big portables out there as well. And so those portables have since been moved off that campus. That campus doesn't have as large of a capacity as our other campuses. And so typically that campus was built for 3 teachers per grade level, whereas some of our other campuses have 8 or 7 per grade level. We have been in discussion about that. That is one of the things we talked about it in depth today at Cabinet. As you know, as part of our bond program, we are converting Zellers back to a pre-K center, and that is due to open in a year and a half. That will relieve 10 classrooms that are currently at Brent, Hackberry, and Oak Point combined, 10 total for the school district. And so that will pull students off of those campuses, which will allow us to grow back into those classrooms and have all of those students here at Zellers. Since we know that we have another elementary in the works as part of this bond, we have talked today about the pros and cons of doing a realignment right now when we would have to turn around and do one for the new elementary. And so while I'm not discounting it, it's something that we continue to talk about in depth in Cabinet. And we did have a very good discussion about the pros and cons of that today.
Mr. Flores, that was a timely question because it's
very
good
timely.
question.
We did talk in depth about it today.
But Dr. Mika, you did a great job answering. But the short answer is yes, at some point we will need to look at, like we did with the middle schools, when we open up the 2 middle schools, we will have to do some boundary adjustments. So that will happen at some point. I don't want to alarm any parents or the community out there. That's not going to happen, anytime in the next little bit. So I don't want anyone to panic.
Yes, sir.
This, again, since it's not on topic, I kind of wanted to piggyback on that, but we may need to wait. But Rod, this would be more of a question directed to you. Do you remember what the working capacity of Presswick is?
I thought it was 600, 550.
Functional capacity is around between about 680 to 700, and I can get a more accurate count on that. Remember, each of those pods are 6 pods, and they have 4 direct classrooms. Some of those are science labs, and there's a big open space that is used by those. So it's 4 classrooms times whatever, and it's, so 22 to 1, except for 5th grade, it's 24 to 1. So
Okay.
I could do the math here in a little bit and then get it to you.
No, and that sounds about the number that I remember from the past. I just wanted a reiteration of that. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Mika. Appreciate it. We'll go to the approval of minutes. So consider the regular board meeting minutes from October 19th, 2020. Do I have a motion? So move from Mr. Flores, second from Mr. Blackwood. Any discussion, questions? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0. We'll go down to action items. First action item, consider approval of financial report, September 2020. Mr. Anderson?
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Gallagher. These are the financials for September 2020. And the budget amendments and financial information presented include both the current amendments and financial information through October 2020 for the 2020-21 fiscal year. The financials include, again, of course, the general fund, capital projects fund, debt service fund, and special revenue funds. General fund counts for the daily operational costs of the district, major budget amendments to the general fund. 2019-20 fiscal year, which we just completed, and we're kind of in the middle of fiscal years right now, and our auditor will be here next month to present our audit. We transferred $8.5 million from the general fund to capital outlay fund, an estimated surplus after transfer about $445,000. For 2020-21, increased state revenue by $1 million from prior year deferred program intent revenue. Decreased budgetary fund balance by $52,000 for a one-time teaching supply purchase, increases budgetary fund balance deficit from $358,605 to $410,605. Increased transfer in from capital outlay fund to general fund for $200,000 for Oak Point Elementary student capital outlay needs. And this will also help meet the comparability of service requirements for the federal Title I funding. I spoke of this in the Finance Committee meeting, where the cost comparability ratio, which measures spending at Title I campuses with non-Title I campuses. And the district has historically been in compliance until a change in Prestwick from K-6 to an elementary school. And this created a higher teacher FTE per student ratio than at Oak Point. And so the district needs to budget and plan on spending an additional $300,000 plus at Oak Point in order to keep the Title I dollars. And $200,000 transfer from capital outlay to general fund for student furniture and other supplies. Capital Projects Fund, transfer again, $200,000 from the Capital Projects Fund to the general fund for Oak Point Elementary. Debt Service Fund, no major budget amendment. And future financial considerations, the increased annual operating costs for new facilities, long-term building program to meet the needs of student enrollment growth. Again, the 86th legislative session, there's always a risk of financial sustainability at the state level. Will be a continued discussion at both local and state levels. Ongoing preventive and deferred maintenance costs of buildings. And I'm anticipating transfer of fund balance in 2020-21 to capital outlay fund for corrective construction measures at Prestwick Elementary. Capital reimbursement resolution from 2017 bond of up to $10 million as communicated in bond program election. And the actual amounts here will be reimbursed is contingent on availability of bond funds and need in the general operating fund. And the four major economic factors which have a direct impact on school funding revenue: a slowdown or decline in property values, a recession causing an increase in uncollected property taxes, a downturn in forecasted student enrollment and or attendance. LEISD has experienced a beginning of the year slowdown in enrollment growth compared to prior year due to COVID. And finance will continue to monitor, and see curriculum instruction also monitors it, and adjust revenue in February 2021 if needed. November 6, 2020, total enrollment was 8,125. Our initial budget built was on 8,218 students. And then the state's inability to fund education as passed under HB 3, causing adjustments to funding levels. 87th legislative regular session will begin January 12th, 2021 and ends May 31st, 2021. That's without a special session. Our general fund financials you see each month, our proposed amendments here for our estimated revenue is going to increase by about $1 million. And our appropriations again, stay pretty consistent at 80% appropriated at the campus level. Our proposed amendments for appropriations is about $1.3 million, and bringing our budget from $80.9 million to $85.5 million from prior year-to-date amendments. And you can see our budget surplus plan deficit is $410,605. Again, this is just budget. And this is our fund balance. And you can see the 2019-20 is our estimated actual. And again, we'll receive those after we get our audit 100% completed and approved. Our proposed budget, our current budget our current budget fund balance is $29.3 million. And we'll have, after these budget amendments, we'll have an impact of $52,000. And we'll have a $410,000 deficit, budgetary fund balance deficit. These are our bond sales. And you can see that the board approved $25 million bond sale, and that should be completed here in December. And so our total bond sale out of the $235 million authorized is $220 million, with $15 million remaining in authorized bonds. Our approved budget for the projects is $187,000. And so there's about $32 million remaining of the bond sale. And I had historically brought up all the projects and put them on the PowerPoint. I just thought that was too much. So we put those projects and budgets and balances can be reviewed at LEISD's financial transparency website. Our debt service fund, our year-to-date realized revenue is $734,000. Our budget to actual expenditures, $800. And again, our long-term debt payments are in February and August of each year. And our ending budgetary fund balance projection is about $7.1 million. And Jesse's going to come up and review with you the available source of funding for coronavirus relief.
Thank you, Board of Trustees. Mr. Gallagher, appreciate it. There was a request for basically what sources are out there, what help are we getting to help combat some of the expenses from the coronavirus. And I've worked pretty closely with Dr. Glover on this. She's been a big help in terms of helping us fact check, track down allowabilities, things like that. She's been amazing throughout this whole process and trying to make sure that we're compliant with all these different little entities that govern each of these. So we have the Corona Relief and Economic Security, which is our CARES Act. And within the CARES Act, there's several different chunks of programs. The ones that apply to us are ESSER, which was the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the Provider Relief Fund, and Operation Connectivity. We did not participate in that. Clay actually did a lot of legwork on that and got us a very comparable deal. And it was, the state was trying to do like a jump in front of the supply chain and get technology for schools, but Clay got us in about a week and a half before them anyway, with a very comparable deal that didn't have, there were some purchasing things that were going on with that one that we were not, some of the rules were not being followed. We were not happy about that. So, and then FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So with ESSER, 90% of the grant from the federal government to the state agencies had to come to us, the LEAs, the local education agencies. And it was distributed based on what your percentage of the Title I funding that you got from the state. So if we get 1% of all the Title I funding for the state, then we get 1% of all of the ESSER funds coming in. Our entitlement was the $464,055. And the key to ESSER funding is there was no supplement, not supplant clause from the federal government, meaning they expressly gave state agencies or state education agencies the right to supplant funding. So they could, in fact, trade this out for our regular state funding, which is what they did. They basically offset a school district ADA with the ESSER funds. So we had about $465,000 of ADA that came off the books and that was replaced with the ESSER funding. So we stayed flat, but just didn't really get anything extra.
Jesse, and again, just so the public understands it, so we were slotted to get $464,000 from this fund, but
Correct.
the state reduced our funding by that exact amount.
By that exact amount, yes, sir.
Do you know if any other states, and again, I'm just,
Without that supplement, not supplant, there, especially during that time, because that was when everything was shut down, there was a lot of states going to be in trouble for it. And by doing this, Texas was able to save about $1.6 billion and reduce current deficit this year, or this biennium. So it was going to be one of those, they did it last year and we all take the hit this year, or they just kind of trade it out and we tread water essentially with where we thought we were going to be before we thought there was a pandemic.
but the district, really the students of the district did not receive
We stayed
any
completely
benefit.
flat. Essentially, there was no benefit. The fun part was we still had to apply for this, even though it was mandatory and our funding was going. We still had to go through the application process and fill out how we were going to get this money. So even though, we still had to work for it extra for what they took away. So that was exciting. And these are all the allowable uses, and it's a giant wall of text. And I'm not going to make you read all that for the quiz later. We basically used activities related to preparedness and response to the coronavirus and purchasing education technology for our work for ESSER. So we did a lot of student desk shields and face shields for teachers and students. Bottle fillers is what we use those funds for. The student instructor masks, sneeze guards, and some hot spots that we used for the students. That's how we used our 464. Next set of funding is the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and this covers costs incurred due to coronavirus emergencies. And LEAs are eligible for up to 75% of the expenditure. So if we submit an expense for $100, they will reimburse us up for $75 of it. It only covers the costs incurred from March 1 to May 20th of 2020. And if you remember at that time, that was right when we shut everything down. And so we were all kind of bunkered down and no one was really doing any kind of spending. So there wasn't actually a lot of expenditures for combating the virus they came, but in the summer when we were trying to figure out how to best combat it. We submitted expenses for $66,901, which means we're going to get a potential reimbursement of $50,000 from this. It's still in process. We're going back and forth with TDEM. There's a lot of ticking and tying and checking boxes and documentation for this. So we're still actually in the process of filling all that out. And so it only covered necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency. And the costs couldn't be in the budget in March 27th. So it had to be something new you were planning, that unforeseen, that came about because of the pandemic. So it could be expenses for facilitating distance learning or payroll costs if we had to set up a whole team to figure out how we're going to do online learning, but our guys kind of already down. So because we were already one-to-one and didn't do a lot of technology purchases at this time, the vast majority of our expenses for this was a lot of the premium pays that you guys authorized for our custodians and our child nutrition workers to come in during the pandemic and disinfect our buildings and clean everything. So that's where the vast majority of this was. And then other PPE and things like that the departments purchased so they could keep doing what they were supposed to be doing. The Provider Relief Fund, this is for qualified providers of healthcare services support eligible to receive payments for healthcare-related expenses or lost revenue due to COVID-19. And the way school districts qualify for this is because of a lot of the medical or the Medicaid services that are reimbursable that Courtney's team provides. So because we were shut down and not able to provide all of those services, they were able to give us a reimbursement for revenue lost during that time, basically up to 2% of what we would have gotten. And we've actually already received the $21,329 for this one. And then FEMA. FEMA is still an ongoing item, it's still an open pandemic. Again, it's another one of those eligible for 75%, but it's only limited to what they call their Category B costs, which are management, control, and reduction of immediate threats to public health, emergency operations centers, training people to handle an event, or disinfecting of public facilities. A little more on that later. Emergency medical care, which we're not providing, medical sheltering. We're not like opening up people to stay at the gym because we had a hurricane come through town and buildings are like, most of the stuff from a FEMA standpoint doesn't apply to what we're doing. They're only reimbursing for cleaning that took place during the spring. Their view now is that, well, yes, the pandemic is still going on. Disinfecting should be kind of status quo at this point for you. It should be just kind of a cost of doing business, and it's not really an emergency at this point. You should have figured that out by now. PPE is only reimbursed for those engaged in emergency protective measures. So those include medical care or distributing food like in a disaster area, operating machinery, operating emergency response centers, or mass casualty management, which we are not dealing with that. And a kind of narrow eligibility of this really limits what we can do. Since we're not doing a lot of these things that they're handling it for, they're still coming at this like a hurricane kind of a thing, as opposed to just the pandemic that it is. There really isn't a lot of opportunity for FEMA funding because of this clause here. All of these different groups, all of these different sources of funding they prohibit duplicate assistance. Obviously, they don't want you to double dip. I can't get face shields reimbursed here and then go over here in ESSER and go over here in coronavirus relief fund and get those same face shields reimbursed again. They're going to have a big problem with that. So because of that, and if you noticed, all of those things had a very narrow qualification where they were kind of the same thing. FEMA only reimburses for disinfecting done in the spring. We submitted all of that with the coronavirus relief fund. So all that disinfecting and stuff we did in the spring is already covered under the coronavirus relief fund. So we can't really submit anything for that under FEMA's rules. So because of that no double dipping clause, most of the things that we have been eligible for, we've already done through another program. So there's not a lot of meat on the bone left for FEMA for a school district. And does anyone have any questions about those sources of funding? Oh.
So the administration recommends approval of the September 2020 financials report as submitted.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept? So moved by Ms. Meyer, second.
Second.
Second from Ms. Harding. Any questions? I do. Can we submit the portion we didn't get paid on from one to the other one?
I like you. We think alike. Oh, no, that is actually expressly forbidden because I looked that up. So yes, you can't get 75% reimbursed for one of them and shove the 25% over to the other one. No, that is a big no-no. You'll see me on the news if we do that.
All right, well, at least it's worth a shot. Yeah. Okay. Do I have any other questions from the board? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. One absentee. Mr. Anderson, fun time again. Consider approval of Little Elm Interlocal Summary Report.
Yes, we have one interlocal with Region 10 Education Service Center with Carolyn Tarver and Child Nutrition. And this is that Region 10's multi-regional purchasing cooperative, organizes and administers the Child Nutrition Cooperative Purchasing and Commodity Processing Program for member contracting entities located within the state of Texas. And there's no renewal amount. This just gives us the opportunity to use their services. The administration recommends of the Little Elm ISD Interlocal Summary Report as submitted.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Flores, first by Mr. Blackwood. Any questions? No. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Anderson, consider approval of Little Elm ISD expenditures over $50,000 summary report.
And we have 3 items on the $50,000 summary report. First one is Apple iPads, Apple Pencils, Apple Care for Title I campuses with Dr. Mika. And it's a purchase of $107,000. And then Delcom with Dr. Mika, for $961,000 to purchase of Promethean boards at the Title I campuses. And the third one is Office Depot with Cecilia Jones and Communications. And this is $52,000 is to purchase teacher-specific supplies for the classroom that help support teaching and learning in the classroom. These supplies will eliminate the teachers having to spend their own money on supplies. Office Depot will bring the purchase of the items to each campus in the form of a traveling store. And teachers can choose from an array of the most desired teacher supplies based on information collected from each principal. And dollar amounts will vary campus to campus depending on the number of teachers. And the plan is to execute in January when teachers return for the spring semester. The administration recommends approval of the Little Elm ISD expenditure over $50,000 summary report as submitted.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Dan, second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Harding. Any questions on any one of the three items?
No.
All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Reeves, we have a string here of items for you. We'll see your lovely face here for a second.
Great.
First one, consider approval of development agreement between Town of Lakewood Village, Little Elm ISD, and Sam Hill Venture.
Thank you, Mr. Olson, board members, and Superintendent Gallagher. Just here to talk about the development agreement. This is a agreement between Sam Hill Venture. Remember, Sam Hill Venture is that group that we're working with on the land swap in Lakewood Village. We do have Mayor Vargas here. Thank you so much, Mayor, for being here this evening. I will say he's been great working with us in our interests. You remember, we're moving that site from off of El Dorado to more of an internal neighborhood school. I know there was a question about Prestwick. You know, that's sort of that neighborhood school too that we're trying to create. And it was great to be on the front end and have a municipality that comes to us first and not on the back end. So we really appreciate you, Mayor, and all your help on our board too, working with us on that. So this development agreement is between all three of us. And so it's a 77.5 acre development. And so you'll notice there's, I think, 3 other items that are on this list, and hopefully that'll go pretty quick this evening, so you won't be here too late. But it's sort of this development agreement is an overarching thing. And then there's 3 pieces. There's that water and sewer easement. There's that road agreement, and then there's that municipal service agreement, and that's part of the annexation. And so if you can look at it like that. So on that, if you look on page 34 of your concept plan, you'll see an overall concept of the Sam Hill Venture development. And at the northern part of the development is where our existing 16 acres are at. It's sort of that triangular pie-shaped piece off El Dorado. And so if you look on page 42 of that that's the old property that we have. And then it shows a new concept plan of our 15 acres. So we're swapping 16 for 15. It's more of a, instead of a pie shaped, it's more of a usable shape. It's more of a rectangular shape. If you look on page 56 and 57 of that development agreement, it specifically deals with public schools and what is required. And so that's sort of what Lakewood Village wants to make sure that when we build something, it fits in with what they're trying to do. And so what we're telling them as part of this agreement is that we're going to do, the schools that we've typically been doing here. And Mr. Martin does a fantastic job on our schools. And so we're going to work directly with Lakewood Village and meet those design standards for that school. If you look at the page 73, you see the concept plan for the elementary school site, and you can see the new roadways that we'll be showing you here in a little bit for that. So on that note, the administration recommends that you approve let me make sure I get the right motion here. Sorry, y'all. The administration recommends the approval of a development agreement between Lakewood Village, Little Elm ISD, and Sam Hill Venture, and authorizes the superintendent or his designee to execute the agreement.
I have a
Happy to
motion.
answer any questions?
So moved.
I got a motion from Ms. Myers. Do I have a second? Second from Ms. Harding. Any questions? Going once, going twice. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Yay.
Mr. Reeves, consider approval of road agreement with Sam Hill Venture for future LISD school support, or school site, excuse me, in town of Lakewood Village.
Okay, this is one of those components we talked about. So this is the western and southern pieces of the new elementary school site. It'll be a 36-foot wide roadway. It'd be beautiful. I talked to Mayor Vargas earlier about it. It's going to be beautiful there. And Sam Hill Venture is in charge of doing all of that and paying for all of that. And so those infrastructure pieces will be there. And so we like that a lot as well. So the administration recommends that the approval of the road agreement with Sam Hill Venture and authorizes the superintendent or his designee to negotiate and execute the final agreement.
Do I have a motion? Motion for Mr. Flores, second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Blackwood. Any questions on this one? And Rod, you said this is on the west and the south?
Western and southern portions of the new school site.
Yeah, the new, no, I know, I'm looking at a different picture. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, yeah, I see where it is.
I think it's a
So the
new
road on the right
thoroughfare.
will remain the same.
I'm
High
sorry?
Ridge. So the
Ridge.
High Ridge will remain the same pretty much on the
Yes.
backside? Okay.
And on the north side, that would be where residential properties.
Back up to it, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. So a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Reeves, consider approval of water and sewer easement to Sam Hill Venture for future Lakewood Village school site.
Thank you. This is just for a water and sewer easement, a 30-foot wide water sewer easement. This is at the northern part of the property. Working with Sam Hill Venture and Mr. Martin, we try to push those easements to the exterior of the school site, which leaves the school site kind of clean to let Mr. Martin work his magic and design beautiful schools. And so that's just, it'll show that northern part will be where that water and sewer easement will be at. And so the administration recommends the approval of the water and sewer easement to Sam Hill Venture and authorize the board president to execute the final easement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Blackwood, second. Second from Ms. Harding. Do you have any questions? So once again, to reiterate, the easement's on the north side that backs up to the houses.
That's correct.
Okay.
No cost.
And no cost.
So, and Mr. Vargas working with Sam Hill Venture it's really a plug and play almost. And so they brought all the utilities there, all the roadways, things of that nature. And so it's been a great collaboration between our municipalities to make sure our constituents aren't hit with bills on both sides. And so it's just a great partnership. So,
I know this was many years in the making, so I'm glad to see it finally coming to.
yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Consider approval of lease of real property, approximately 60.141 acres, George W. Daniel Survey, abstract number 331, and being all of lots 17 and 18, Hunters Ridge Addition, City of Oak Point, Denton County, Texas.
Thank you, board. Yes, this is the 60 acres that we just purchased in Oak Point off Yacht Club Road. And so what we're doing is asking you to approve a framework of a bid package that we're going to go out to the public for a lease agreement. And so what we're saying is that those that wish to submit bids on this piece of property to do a lease, it would be an ag lease. And so it would be restricted. I think if you look at Exhibit B in your board backup, you'll see that if there's certain restrictions. They can't sublease this. You can't put a business on there that you want to, or a daycare on there. It has to be certain restrictions and requirements that are on there. And so what we're asking you this evening is to approve us moving forward with this framework. Once we take bids and things of that nature, we'll bring that back to you so you can look at the person or people that we've submitted to you for approval, and you can relook at that final lease agreement. So the administration recommends the approval of the lease bid package and newspaper advertisement as submitted, and authorizes the superintendent or his designee to advertise a lease, issue the bid package, and open sealed bids before consideration at a future board meeting.
Do I have a motion? So moved by Ms. Harding, second. Second by Mr. Flores. Any questions? So just, Rod, for clarification standpoint, we do have the right to refuse all these bids, correct?
That's
And so if
that's
we don't
correct.
like what the plan is set by any of the people who bid on the services for what they want to do, we can just pull all the bids
Reject all
back. and-
bids and go out for bid again, or we can maintain it ourselves.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. Any other questions? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? 4-1. Consider approval of municipal service agreement with the town of Lakewood Village related to the full purpose annexation of approximately 16.371 acres and the Christopher C. Dickinson Survey, abstract number A-399, Denton County.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. This is that final piece we were talking about as part of this, all this land swap agreement. And so this is just a municipal service agreement. And so this is, by law, we're required to provide written notification to the town of Lakewood Village that we request them to annex our existing property. This, all that language is our existing property on El Dorado. We wish for them to annex into this development when everything's said and done. So the administration recommends the approval of the municipal service agreement between Lakewood Village and the Little Elm ISD and authorizes the superintendent or his designee to execute the agreement.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Blackwood, second. Second by Ms. Myers. Any questions? Just for clarification also on this one, just to make sure this is, when we're doing the annexation, this is all and related to the road also, correct?
That's correct. So this is all kind of together, and so it's all kind of contingent on one another. And so, yes, and so it's concerning that they have to provide utilities, everything to our existing property. Right now, it's in the town of Lakewood Village's extraterritorial jurisdiction, if I said that correctly. And so this would incorporate it into their main town limits, and so they have to bring all those utilities to that site.
Okay.
Did I say that right, Mr. Mayor Vargas? Okay, yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions? So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And the last one, consider approval of lease agreement for recreational grounds and facilities between the town of Little Elm and Little Elm Independent School District for approximately 36.58 acres around Lakeside Middle School, Powell Center, and Zeller Center.
Thank you again. This is just another example of how our administration, the board is working with our municipalities, not only Lakewood Village, but the town of Little Elm. And remember a few board meetings ago, we worked with the colony on that joint use agreement, facility use agreement. And so this is another way that we can work together as municipalities for the good of our constituents. And so this would be for the grounds along Lobo Lane, the outside areas. We would give a lease to the town of Little Elm for playfields, for recreational sports and things of that nature. And it would be a 25-year lease. We do have options to opt out of that. Both parties do, as we worked out. And so, but we think this would be a great partnership to improve the ball fields along Lobo Lane. And so the administration recommends the approval of the lease agreement for recreational grounds and facilities between the town of Little Elm and Little Elm ISD, and authorizes the superintendent or his designee to execute the final lease agreement. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, this one we'll give it to Ms. Myers. Second,
Second.
Ms. Harding. So I have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Once again, I think to reemphasize just from this board's perspective and my perspective is there are out clauses at different various times and also a termination without cause, just with some criteria around it for as far as reimbursement or assuming debt, correct?
That's correct. So for instance, if the town of Little Elm takes on a 30-year note for a track and field that has a 10-year depreciation, after it's fully been depreciated over those 10 years, we would not have any obligations on that debt at all. And so I know the board was interested in making sure we put that in, so the town was agreeable to that.
Okay. Any other questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Reeves.
much.
So I do have one request to pull an item off the consent agenda. So item B, 11B, we'd like to pull off and go ahead and discuss that per Mr. Blackwood. So could I possibly get Ms. Glover? Oh, not here? Not here. Can somebody, Dr. Mickey, can you speak on that behalf? If we have a couple questions real quick. Thank you. Come on up. So we'll go ahead and go to this item first. To discuss and consider approval of 2020, 2021
Don't worry,
parent and family
it's easy.
engagement plans / parent involvement plans for Title I campuses. So, Mr. Blackwood, can we go and ask questions first, correct? Or do we need a vote?
Yeah.
Make a motion. So do I have a motion to approve this item 11B?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Blackwood. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Harding. Questions? Now,
Yeah, I actually just had a request. Is there any possible way that we could potentially just pull this and bump this next month? And the reason why I'm requesting that is, well, she just walked out of the room, but simply because this is one of the main issues that Ms. Thompson campaigned on. And I would like her to have the ability, I'd like to, offer her the ability to basically look at this and review this, to see if she had any comments on it for next month. It's just basically just an offer of consideration for her, just to be able to take a look at it. So
My understanding is that this is due
it is,
to the state.
it is, okay,
And we have a deadline.
okay,
And so this is the
Normal.
last day that we could have got it approved by the board in order for us to make our state
okay.
deadline.
It didn't state that in the agenda item, so
Yeah.
I will withdraw
That
the
is,
request.
and that is from the top of, that's what I remember from this discussion with Ms. Glover. So
Okay.
she was getting these in by the campuses.
Okay,
okay.
So-
And the only one that has to be approved is the district one.
okay.
Okay.
So that being the case, I withdraw the request.
Okay. No problem. We still have a motion and a second. So any further questions from any other board members?
No.
All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Have one abstain. Passes 4-0. So the rest of the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda? So moved by Ms. Myers, second by Ms. Harding, because they both tied. All those in favor, or any questions? No, no, no. I'll wait for Mr. Flores to have a seat. All those in favor, so I have a motion, second, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, raise your hand. All right, instead of that. All those opposed, motion passes 5-0. So we will go into board comments. So I can take over for David and take his first, because he's not here. Only thing I guess I really have is, as usual, staff, thank you for all your hard work, dedication to getting the reports and information to us. We greatly appreciate that. I know a lot of times we ask questions, but it's always making sure that we're doing the right thing with the district and the kids. So thank you very much. And I get to be the first one to say, thank you, Ms. Harding. I have thoroughly enjoyed the last 5.5 years. Appreciate it very much for all your hard work with the district over the past 7+ years, but I've only been involved for 5.5 of it. So thank you very much. We appreciate all of that. I guess technically 6.5, isn't it? Because you went half longer, 6.5. But wish you well. I know you will not be a stranger, but thank you very much. Appreciate for all your time and support for the district. So then I will go to board comments, and I'll start on my left and move my way around to the front. So we'll actually skip over one person and come back. But Dan?
Thank you, administration, again, for everything you've done. And again, I'd like to give my thank you to Rod and all the hard work with the town of Lakewood Village and getting that done. I know it's been a long time coming. I know that we're all very appreciative of that. For Ms. Harding, again, I had the joy of sitting next to you the first, I think, 3 years. And there were several times where Dr. Strike and I believe that Mr. Gallagher wanted to reach over and probably smack us a little bit because we were having a little too much fun over there sometimes. There were times where I had a lot of questions and you were very beneficial, very helpful to me when I reached out. And I thank you for that. Even though there were a lot of times we did not necessarily see eye to eye, you were always willing to, at the very minimum, listen. And sometimes tell me when I was doing things wrong and we'd get in arguments about it. But, that's how we learn to work with each other. So as Jason said, I know that you will not be a stranger. I look forward to hearing from you in the future. And you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do with your Mondays off now. And if I could direct one statement to a public comment earlier, we did have our Chief Harrison in last month regarding the crimes in the district. So any individuals that are concerned about drug use at the middle schools, watch last month's meeting and you can see the statements from Chief Harrison regarding that.
Ms. Myers?
No
Mike?
comments.
Oh.
I can't say anything because then I'll just start crying. So.
Okay. Go to Mr.
You're
We're going so we're skipping over one and coming back. So Mr. Flores.
I wrote a little note for Miss Harding, so
Oh, no.
if you will indulge
You're
me.
killing me.
Dear Miss Harding, you're an amazing servant leader and the pioneer to the change that occurred and continues to occur in the Lam ISD. You were the lone wolf, no pun intended, when things were not going well in this district. You always stood up for what was right for our students and staff at a time when no one would listen. You were patient, strategic, and caring, and knew that one day you would get the help needed to make the change that our students now benefit from. Ms. Harding, you're the most seasoned trustee, and with you goes the experience that we all long to have as trustees. We've all learned much from you, and we plan on carrying the tradition of doing what's right for kids. After all of our kids are all of our kids. I'm just glad I don't have to fill those large shoes you leave behind. May God bless you and your family always. This is not a goodbye, but simply a see you later. I know we will continue to see you at school events and other activities the districts host because we know how much you care about this community. Plus, you have a future Lobo, and that's counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. I guess we'll let you go now, Miss Harding.
Oh, my goodness. Gosh, you know, I was saving this for next week, but, oh, my God.
Oh, you can still save it for next week.
Well, I do have a little goodbye speech for next week,
Okay.
but no, thank you guys. Oh my gosh, this has been amazing. It's my official last meeting, so oh my gosh, we've been through. I know between my husband earlier and now you guys, it has been an amazing journey. And you know, Rod, Dr. Mika, Sonia, you guys have been here through thick and thin with me, so it's been crazy. And I said it the other night, but I'll say it again, the change that has happened in this district. I never in a million years thought that you guys were miracle workers by any leaps and bounds that I thought the change that we could do. It has truly been amazing. That guy right there, he got me. Oh dear. He's the only reason I ran. And he did this for me because he knew I was upset. He knew I could make a difference. And he's the reason. He actually told me we could change, and I believed him. And then got help. We got here and we did it. I mean, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights. These guys, oh my God, the number of mountains we climbed. We did, shoot, there were 2 years, I think you guys had to tolerate all the meetings, all the changes, all the, poor Sonia. She kept it together, but it was crazy. It was a crazy journey, and we've done it. We've turned it around from the SPED department to our athletics, our curriculum, just our culture, our teachers, our staff. You guys have done it. I mean, we didn't even think 6 years ago we'd have 2 new middle schools out here to be proud of, and it's been crazy. It has been crazy. So first and foremost, I've got to thank my husband for everything that he's done for me and through this time, and his support and his courage. And when I didn't think we could do anything and I was going to give up, he helped. And then you guys, y'all tolerated so much, but y'all have done so much work for the admin and what you guys have done and what y'all have put up with. And, you know, we told y'all what we needed, and y'all said, here's how we're going to make it happen. And y'all did it. Y'all, you know, we were, like he said, rock bottom, and then now we're a nationally recognized district. I never in a million years thought we could do that in such a short time. You know, government works slow. I thought we were going to be very slow when it came to that. So, and then I had the opportunity of meeting Dr. Thompson, and I thought she was a wonderful woman. I was terrified if I actually had to run against her, but she was definitely a formidable opponent, and I want to congratulate her. I think she will do a fantastic job. And if I had to pass the reins over to anybody, I'm glad it's her. So I'm not scared. I know that you guys are going to do this. The hearts are all in the right place, and you guys are accelerating. I don't see it going anywhere else. So thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Appreciate it. Superintendent Gallagher?
Yeah, we really should have let Leanna go last, but one thing, and Alex, that was beautiful words, what you just said. Everyone said great things about Leanna, and I'll say this. I don't know if you all remember this, but when Dr. Strike first came here, one of the analogies he used was the flywheel. And, if you know what a flywheel is, it's really hard to get going, very hard to get moving. And Leanna really was the first on this board to jump in and start pushing the flywheel. This district, of course, we've got so much work left to do, and I think that's the beauty of who we have here is we recognize that we're always looking to improve, and we're always setting the bar higher and higher. But when Leanna first joined the board, I would say the flywheel was not moving at all. And, when Melissa and Alex and really the rest of you joined the board, it got the district moving. And I said this Tuesday night, obviously the district is moving in the right direction because we've got the right people. We've got great teachers. We've got amazing people in the district, but it really goes back to the board. And if you look at any successful district across the state, it has a great board that is supportive. They have a vision. They want what's best for the district, and they keep pushing. So Leanna definitely is going to be missed. This has been a very, very effective board. And I'm excited, to welcome Dr. Thompson. I think you've got big shoes to fill, but I think, like Leanna said, your heart is in the right place. That's what's great about this board. Every single member of this board, their heart is in the right place, and we'll keep moving the district forward. And Leanna, there will never be enough thanks for everything that you did. And again, the rest of the board, what they've been able to do as a result of the change that happened. So you're going to come back in December when we swear Dr. Thompson in, correct? Okay.
She has to hug me. We're going to
All right.
violate CDC, so.
But just again, board, thank you so much, Leanna. Yeah, it's been awesome having you on the board, and I appreciate everything you've done for this district.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gallagher. So with that being said, do I have a motion to close?
It's mine. So moved.
So moved from Ms. Leanna Harding, second from Mr. Flores. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Meeting is officially adjourned at 8:16 p.m.
Yeah, hey, Jason, is this a record, or does Leanna still hold the record?
Oh, no, actually Melissa.
Or you hold the record, okay.
Whatever, I can send it back. I can maybe go a little quicker. Rain's got longer presentations than your president.